What's up, you guys? All right, so today we're going to get through pages 76 through 81 of Fahrenheit 451. It's not a huge chunk of text, but it's an important chunk of text because this Faber guy. So this Faber guy that we met in that last batch of pages in those reading journals, you guys talked about how Montag's probably getting in touch with him so you could, kind of teach him how to read, so to speak. I think that's what we're doing here too. So in pages 76 through 81, Faber kind of explains, some pretty important things. So here's how today's will work. I'll just read the pages straight through, and at the end, then go ahead and tackle the reading journal. It's a triple entry today, and they're all very similar. I'm not going to be stopping throughout these pages. I'm just going to read them through. But if you need to look back into any of the pages that I'm reading, I note on the reading journal what pages you're going to want to take a look at. And you may notice that this one is put a little bit more on you. It's not that I'm getting lazy. It's just that, quite frankly, you guys are showing pretty well that, you understand. You understand what's going on in the story. It's a little bit weird, but what isn't a little bit weird in my class? So it's what we do. It's what we do. All right, so page 76, about halfway down that page. Ready? Here we go. Oh, this is Montag at Faber's door. Who is it? Montag out here. What do you want? Let me in. I haven't done anything. I'm alone, damn it. You swear it? I swear. The front door opened slowly. Faber peered out, looking very old in the light and very fragile and very much afraid. The old man looked as if he had not been out of the house in years. He and the white plaster walls inside were much the same. There was white in the flesh of his mouth and his cheeks, and his hair was white and his eyes had faded, with whites in the vague blueness there. Then his eyes touched on the book under Montag's arm. And he did not look so old anymore, and not quite as fragile. Slowly his fear went. I'm sorry. One has to be careful. He looked at the book under Montag's arm and could not stop. So it's true. Montag stepped inside. The door shut. Sit down. Faber backed up as if he feared the book might vanish if he took his eyes from it. Behind him, the door to a bedroom stood open, and in that room a litter of machinery and steel tools was strewn upon a desktop. Montag had only a glimpse before Faber, seeing Montag's attention diverted, turned quickly and shut the bedroom door and stood holding the knob with a trembling hand. His gaze returned unsteadily to Montag, who was now seated with the book in his lap. The book. Where did you... I stole it. Faber for the first time raised his eyes and looked directly into Montag's face. You're brave. No, said Montag. My wife's dying. A friend of mine's already dead. Someone who may have been a friend was burnt less than 24 hours ago. You're the only one I knew might help me to see. Faber's hands itched on his knees. May I? Sorry. Montag gave him the book. It's been a long time. I'm not a religious man, but it's been a long time. Faber turned the pages, stopping here and there to read. It's as good as I remember. Lord, how they've changed it. In our parlors these days, Christ is one of the family now. Often wonder if God recognizes his own son the way they've dressed him up, or has it dressed him down. He's a regular peppermint stick now, all sugar crystal and saccharin, when he isn't making veiled references to certain commercial products that every worshiper absolutely needs. Faber sniffed the book. Do you know that books smell like nutmeg or some spice from a foreign land? I love to smell them. I loved to smell them when I was a boy. Lord, there were a lot of lovely books once before we let them go. Faber turned the pages. Mr. Montag, you are looking at a coward. I saw the way things were going a long time back. I said nothing. I'm one of the innocents who could have spoken up and out when no one would listen to the guilty, but I did not speak and thus became guilty myself. And when finally they set the structure to burn the books using the firemen, I grunted a few times and subsided, for there were no others grunting or yelling with me by then. Now it's too late. Faber closed the Bible. Well, suppose you tell me why you came here. Nobody listens anymore. I can't talk to the walls because they're yelling at me. I can't talk to my wife. She listens to the walls. I just want someone to hear what I have to say, and maybe if I talk long enough, it'll make sense. And I want you to teach me to understand what I read. Faber examined Montag's thin, blue-jowled face. How did you get shaken up? What knocked the torch out of your hands? I don't know. We have everything we need to be happy, but we aren't happy. Something's missing. I looked around. The only thing I positively knew was gone was the books I'd burned in 10 or 12 years, so I thought books might help. You're a hopeless romantic, said Faber. It would be funny if it were not serious. It's not books you need. It's some of the things that once were in books. Some of the same things could be in the Parlor families today. The same infinite detail and awareness could be projected through the radios and televisors, but are not. No, it's not books at all you're looking for. Take it where you could find it. In old phonograph records, old motion pictures, and in old friends. Look for it in nature and look for it in yourself. Books were only one type of receptacle where we stored a lot of things we were afraid we might forget. There is nothing magical in them at all. The magic is only in what books say, how they stitch the patches of the universe together into one garment for us. Of course you couldn't know this. Of course you still can't understand what I mean when I say all this. You are intuitively right. That's what counts. 3 things are missing. Number 1, do you know why books such as this are so important? Because they have quality. And what does the word quality mean? To me, it means texture. This book has pores. It has features. This book can go under the microscope. You'll find life under the glass, streaming past in infinite profusion. The more pores, the more truthfully recorded details of life per square inch you can get on a sheet of paper, the more literary you are. That's my definition anyway. Telling detail, fresh detail. The good writers touch life often. The mediocre ones run a quick hand over her. The bad ones rape her and leave her for the flies. So now do you see why books are hated and feared? They show the pores in the face of life. The comfortable people want only wax-moon faces, poreless, hairless, expressionless. We are living in a time when flowers are trying to live on flowers instead of growing on good rain and black loam. Even fireworks, for all their prettiness, come from the chemistry of the earth. Yet somehow we think we can grow, feeding on flowers and fireworks without completing the cycle back to reality. Do you know the legend of Hercules and Antaeus, the giant wrestler whose strength was incredible so long as he stood firmly on the earth? But when he was held rootless in midair by Hercules, he perished easily. There isn't something in that legend for us today, in this city, in our time, that I am completely insane. Well, there we have the first thing I said we needed: quality, texture of information. And the second, leisure. Oh, but we've plenty of off hours. Off hours, yes, but time to think. If you're not driving 100 miles an hour at a clip where you can't think of anything else but the danger, then you're playing some game or sitting in some room where you can't argue with the 4-wall televisor. Why? The televisor is real. It is immediate. It has dimension. It tells you what to think and blasts it in. It must be right. It seems so right. It rushes you on so quickly to its own conclusions. Your mind hasn't time to protest. What nonsense. Only the familiest people. I beg your pardon? My wife says books aren't real. Thank God for that. You can shut them, say, hold on a moment. You play God to it. But who has ever torn himself from the claw that encloses you when you drop a seed in a TV parlor? It grows you any shape it wishes. Is it an environment as real as the world? It becomes and is the truth. Books can be beaten down with reason. But with all my knowledge and skepticism, I have never been able to argue with a 100-piece symphony orchestra, full color, 3 dimensions, and I being in and part of those incredible parlors. As you see, my parlor is nothing but 4 plaster walls. And here, he held out 2 small rubber plugs for my ears when I ride the subway jets. Denham's dentifrice, they toil not, neither do they spin, said Montag, eyes shut. Where do we go from here? Would books help us? Only if the third necessary thing could be given us. Number 1, as I said, quality of information. Number 2, leisure to digest it. And number 3, the right to carry out actions based on what we learn from the interaction of the first 2. And I hardly think a very old man and a fireman turned sour could do much this late in the game. I can get books. You're running a risk. That's the good part of dying. When you've nothing to lose, you run any risk you want. There. You've said an interesting thing, laughed Faber, without having read it. Are things like that in books? But it came off the top of my mind. All the better. You didn't fancy it up for me or anyone, even yourself. And that's where we're going to stop. All right. So the reading journal that goes along with this, there are 3 entries all bundled together. When you see it, it'll make sense. All right. So essentially, you're just explaining what Faber said in the section that I've just read, but the reading journal breaks it down a little bit more for you. So get that done. Get that submitted. Let me give you the points, and I'll see y'all real soon. Mr. C's out of here.